honestly, I'm kind of exhausted. I'm regretting picking 10 books. I should have stuck with 5. Hi, these are going to be my top 10 favorite books of 2019. I know it's a little on the late side. Everything I feel like I do in life is a little on the late side, so it's just kind of where we're at. So I had what I feel like is a fairly good reading year. I've read 60 books this year, and out of those 60 books, I have now picked 10 that are my favorites of 2019. And here are just a couple of stats about my favorite books of 2019. 7 books out of the 10 are 2019 publications. The other 3 are going to be a 2018, a 2014, and a 2011. On this list of top 10 favorites, 2 are young adult titles, 1 I would classify as a new adult title, and 7 are classified as adults, though one that I will say is an adult title. People debate whether it's a YA or adult because of the age of the characters. However, the author has said that it is adult, so I'm going with the author's decision on this one. Additionally, as far as the genres go, 4 are fantasies, 4 are contemporary romances. I have 1 historical fiction and 1 science fiction. So this list is going to go in order of which I read them. I could not put them in order of like, here's my 1 through 10. I couldn't pick amongst my favorites. It was like trying to pick a favorite child, is at least what I'm assuming because I have no children. I love them all so much for different reasons. So these are my top 10 favorite books that I read in the year 2019. The first book that makes my top 10 list for 2019 is going to be The Wicked King by Holly Black. This came out in January 2019, so it was a new release, and it is the second book in a YA fantasy series centered around the world of fairy. Per kind of usual, I can't really explain too much about this book because it is the second book in a series, though I know it is very popular, so I doubt that many people haven't read it yet, but on the off chance that you hadn't, I don't want to spoil it for you, so I'm not going to be going into details about this second book, but I can go into a few details about the series. So in the Folk of the Air series, we started knowing that we have 3 sisters, Vivian, the oldest, and then Jude and Taryn, who are identical twin sisters, and while they're living in peace with their mom and dad in the human realm, a bombshell is dropped on them in the form of a fairy named Maddox. Maddox comes to their house, visits them, kills their mom and dad, and lets them know that Vivian is his daughter, making Vivian half fae, so he takes the 3 girls and sweeps them into the land of Elfheim, which is the fairy realm in this world. So Jude is our main character. She's grown up in the world of Elfheim for her entire life. She has been around fae her whole life. She has gone to school with them. She has eaten with them. She is immersed in the world of fae. However, the fae in this world do not like humans. They despise humans, so there is kind of no place really for Jude in the world of Elfheim. However, as the daughter of Maddox, she has gotten a taste of what real power can look like and what real power can do in this world because Maddox is a general. So since Jude is a human in this fairy world, nothing has come easy for her, and that is made especially true since she has made an enemy of one of the fae princes, Prince Carden. So this is a hate to hate romance that's filled with this delicious tension, but also filled with political intrigue and a serious power struggle in this fae realm. Both books 2 and books 3 came out this year. However, I personally enjoyed book 2, The Wicked King, just a little bit more than I enjoyed The Queen of Nothing. I thought this book's writing was just a little bit better. Also, the cliffhanger at the end of the book 2 just had me dying. I was filled with anticipation for the end of the year when book 3 would have come out. I gave this book 5 stars. This series as a whole will probably remain one of my favorite series of all time. And yeah, this was my first favorite book of 2019. My next favorite book of 2019 was A Curse So Dark and Lonely by Brigid Kemmerer. This book came out also in January 2019, and this is a YA portal fantasy that is a retelling of Beauty and the Beast. It is partially set in our world, in Washington, D.C., but it is also partially set in the fantastical land of Emberfall. Our main character, Harper, and her brother are in a pretty rough situation at home in DC. Their mother is dying, their father up and left them one day, leaving behind a slew of trouble with the local gangs that Harper and her brother now have to deal with. Harper has cerebral palsy, and because of this, her brother is always underestimating her. One night while Harper and her brother are on a mission, Harper gets taken by Gray, who is the royal guard to Ren, the prince of Emberfall, who is cursed to remain a beast unless he can get a girl to fall in love with him, hence the Beauty and the Beast retelling. However, breaking this curse has not been as easy as Ren originally anticipated it being, and that is why Gray has had to resort to using magic to open portals to other worlds to take women from other worlds to see if they can break the curse that Ren is under. This was a fantastic Beauty and the Beast retelling. It kept me on the edge of my seat. I fell in love with the characters. I love Bridget Kemmerer's writing. It just blew me out of the water. Though I am a big fan of Beauty and the Beast retellings, I'm kind of a sucker for them, if you will. If somebody tells me it's Beauty and the Beast retelling, I'm like, yes, please, I will take 1 copy or 5. I especially loved our main character Harper in this because Harper is not that like Stockholmy syndrome-y, you know, kind of a beauty character, if you will. She very much realizes that the situation she's in is insane, and she makes references to medieval shows that she watches in the real world to be able to help her navigate Emberfall, and it is so good. She's dealing with trying to navigate this new world that she's not been a part of. She's also trying to help Ren and Gray and break this curse because she just feels bad for them. Additionally though, she has a lot going on at home in DC, so she's worried about her mom and she's worried about her brother and she just wants to get back home. I loved the story. I gave it 5 stars, and I'm currently reading the sequel, A Heart So Pierced and Broken, right now, and it is just as good. My next favorite book of 2019 is The Bride Test by Helen Huang. This is also a book that came out in 2019. It was released this past May. This is an adult contemporary romance, and in this book we follow Kai, who is a side character from The Kiss Quotient. Kai falls on the autism spectrum and he believes he has no feelings. Rather than realizing that maybe he just processes feelings differently than other people, he just thinks that there's something wrong with him and that he can never fall in love, so he avoids all romantic relationships, period. However, Kai has a very meddlesome mother, and she takes it upon herself to find Kai a bride in Vietnam. In Vietnam, she meets Esme. Esme is mixed race, so she's half white, half Vietnamese, and she's living in Vietnam with her family. However, they are under some serious financial stress, and so when Esme meets Kai's mother, she realizes that this could be the big break her family needs to be able to get them out of this financial struggle and into a better life in America. So she goes to America. She knows that she's going to be a bride for Kai, but a bride is the very last thing that Kai wants. So Esme takes it upon herself to try to teach Kai love lessons kind of on the down low to get him to realize that he can love. However, it backfires because then Esme starts to realize that maybe these love lessons are having a bigger effect on her than they are on Kai, because she is starting to develop some serious feelings for him. This was so cute. I loved this book. Oh. God, the writing is so funny, it is quick, it is witty, and you're laughing at how funny the characters are, but then you're also kind of laughing at how awkward the situations are. You definitely, occasionally, at least I did, get some secondhand embarrassment from the situations that these guys put themselves in, both Kai and Esme, with the hijinks that Esme kind of thinks up. It was so good. Their romance was so cute and wonderful to read about. I loved getting to go through this journey with them, and I am so excited to just continue on with Helen Huang's stories, particularly because the 3rd book in this series comes out this year, I believe, and it is following one of my favorite characters from both the 1st and the 2nd book, Quan. I'm so ready for Quan's love story. I'm ready for him to fall in love, ready for the Playboy to be played. That's all I want out of that story, okay? My next favorite book of 2019 was actually another 2019 release, and that is The Flat Share by Beth O'Leary. This was a debut adult romance novel. I guess I would classify it as adult romance. In this book we have Tiffy, who just got out of a terrible relationship and is in desperate need for a cheap place to live. And we also follow Leon, who is a night shift worker with a 1-bedroom apartment who needs some extra cash. So they make a deal. Tiffy can have the bedrooms during the evenings while Leon is at work, and Leon will have the bedroom during the day while Tiffy is at work. And now they're roommates who kind of never really meet. They communicate through sticky notes for the majority of this book, and that is one of the reasons that you just love it. Their kind of always missing each other communication is so cute, so perfect. It is told in dual perspectives, so you get some chapters from Tiffy's point of view, some chapters from Leon's point of view, and so you really kind of get a grasp on both of their life situations and their personalities, and their personalities definitely shine through in this book. Leon is very kind of straight-laced and orderly, while Tiffy is a little eccentric and colorful, and it's fun to see how their personalities come together and how their relationship and their friendship builds and then maybe builds into something more. Additionally, it was also kind of wonderful to see Tiffy realize that she was in a really terrible relationship and see her find her own self-worth throughout this book. It made me cry. I loved it. It was 5 stars, and I'm super excited for Beth O'Leary's second book that comes out this year, I believe in April, and it's called The Switch. So my next favorite book is actually a backlist title, and that is Red Rising by Pierce Brown. This came out in 2014. This is an adult science fiction story set in a futuristic society that is a color-coded caste system, starting with the top, which are the golds. They're the strongest, the most powerful, the most superior, if you kind of believe that, and then it goes silver, bronze, all the way down to reds. Reds are the lowest of the lows in this futuristic society. However, the Reds on Mars are unaware of this because they believe that they've been mining the surface of Mars for an element to terraform the surface to make Mars hospitable for people. After a terrible tragedy, it is revealed to our main character Darrow that this is all a lie. That society and people have been thriving on the surface of Mars for generations, and that the Reds are basically the slave caste to this society. So Darrow is sent on a mission where he has to infiltrate the Gold caste and their institute, where he has to become a Gold in order to break the system from the inside out, top down. This is an incredibly fast-paced sci-fi adventure story. The plot moves so quickly that I was never bored or overwhelmed with the sci-fi elements, though I also felt like everything was well explained. However, I am not the end-all be-all to sci-fi knowledge, so if I'm wrong on that, it was well explained to me, okay? I also feel like Pierce Brown did a fantastic job with these characters. They all felt original and individual, and when you have such a large cast of characters, particularly when you're a debut author, because this was his debut, I think that's a really difficult thing to do, to make everyone feel like an individual, and I think he did it wonderfully. Though Darrow is our main character, and I do love me some Darrow, Severo is like, Severo is my favorite, so. This book I gave 5 out of 5 stars. I also read Golden Sun this year, but again, I just kind of like with The Wicked King and The Queen of Nothing, I just liked this book just a little bit more than I liked Golden Sun. So I'm excited to continue on with the series and hopefully finish this series in 2020. The next book that I read this year that ended up being a favorite is Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. This is I would classify it as a new adult contemporary romance set in an alternative version of America where our main character, Alex Claremont Diaz, is the first son to the first female president of the United States of America. And boy, is Alex a charmer. In fact, it seems like the only person Alex can't charm is the Prince of England, Prince Henry. It gets so bad that at an event, I think it was a wedding, that after a glorious conversation, I believe one of them ends up in a cake and the tabloids get a hold of the story. And so the tabloids are shouting about these negative relations between the US and Britain, and so damage control has to be done. And the damage control comes in the form of the two camps deciding that Alex and Prince Henry are now going to be the best of fake friends. They are going to have the most Instagrammable friendship on earth, and then all the drama will just disappear. And as their fake friendship develops, it turns into a real friendship and then maybe something more. And so now Alex and Henry are dealing with their new feelings for each other, their new relationship status, and how open do they want to be with the world at large. This is such a refreshing enemies to friends, friends to lovers romance. I was absolutely obsessed with Alex and Henry, particularly Alex because I feel like I got him. We're both half Hispanics from Texas, and while I don't identify as LGBTQ+, my mom does. And so I kind of understand, particularly towards the end when Alex was coming back to Texas, I kind of got his nerves because particularly not everywhere. There's definitely accepting people all over the world. However, when you're entering a state that is known to be very conservative, it can be a little nerve-wracking to now have to introduce who you are or who your family is and know that somebody who you're introducing yourself to might just hate you based on absolutely nothing. So I just really loved Alex. I cried a lot. I cried at a lot of the Texas scenes. I cried at a lot of the family scenes, and like many of us, I definitely cried at the imagining of the 2016 election. I gave this debut 5 out of 5 stars, and I cannot wait to read whatever Casey McQuiston wants to bless us with next. The next book on my list is another backlist title from 2018, and that is The Simple Wild by K.A. Tucker. This is an adult contemporary romance set in small town Alaska. When Calla Fletcher's mother decided she was sick and tired of living in the Alaskan wilderness, she took Calla and left Calla's father in Alaska for a bigger city in Canada. Now a 26-year-old with an up-and-coming fashion and lifestyle blog, Calla learns that her father, Ren, is very sick and it's not looking good. So Calla leaves her life in big city Toronto and moves to the Alaskan wilderness in an effort to try and salvage some sort of relationship with her father. Literally on her way to Alaska, she meets Jonah, a pilot in her father's charter plane company, and they immediately get off onto the wrong foot. Jonah thinks that Calla is this airheaded, prissy city girl, while Calla thinks that Jonah is this rough, rude, and very obnoxious, wildly opinionated Alaskan. This is a hate-to-love romance that will have you burning with anticipation for these two to just get to the love. Tension that K. Tucker writes between Jonah and Calla was so delicious. However, the part that I really connected with most of this book was the relationship between Calla and her father, Ren. They've been out of each other's lives for so long, and that there's some serious unresolved issues and obstacles that Calla and Ren would have to work through to be able to have any sort of relationship together. And that was just, the way the book handled that was so wonderful and so moving. I personally don't have a relationship with my father, so I really connected to Calla in that way, and I loved it. I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars, and I'm so excited that K.A. Tucker is writing a sequel to this book with more Calla and Jonah. I'm ready now for it. Oh, the next book on my list for favorites that I read in 2019 is going to be Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I know this is on many people's favorites lists this year. This came out this year in March 2019. So this is an adult historical fiction novel set in the late 60s and then goes through the 70s, and it chronicles the rise and subsequent fall and breakup of the fictional band Daisy Jones and the Six. In it, we follow Daisy Jones, a young girl of privilege who has 2 very famous parents, coming of age in the LA scene through the friendships that she makes and the bad relationships that she tends to get into, all while she's just trying to find her voice and assert her worth in a world that just sees her as a pretty face. She is seen as the girl whose songs are written about, not the girl who writes the songs. We also follow the Six, a band started by the Dunn brothers, Billy and Graham, though Billy is definitely the standout star of the Six. We see how the band comes together and grows in their popularity and music, and we definitely see how everyone, both the Six and Daisy Jones, kind of indulge themselves in this late 60s, 70s lifestyle of sex, drugs, and rock and roll. If you're a fan of bands like Fleetwood Mac, Eagles, which are my personal favorite band, Led Zeppelin, you are going to love this book. It has all that great rock and roll music, but it also has that kind of rock and roll vibe. This book is told in interview format, and though I've heard the audiobook is really good, I actually read this book in the physical form, and I still thought it was just as addicting, just as fast-paced. I thought the characters were individual enough, even just on page, though I have heard again that the audiobook enhances that because it is a full cast. Though I loved Daisy and Billy's storylines just as much as everyone else, they are definitely the standout stars of this book. My personal favorite character was Camila, Billy's wife. Her emotional strength, her loyalty to her family, her drive and determination was so admirable, and she really made this book for me, and the ending had me in tears, though that's not impressive because I cry at everything. This book was 5 out of 5 stars for me, and I cannot wait to read everything else that Taylor Jenkins Reid writes. The next book that I read that ended up being one of my favorite books of 2019 is A Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness. This was published in 2011, and this is an adult fantasy romance set in our world. However, in this version of our world, vampires, witches, and demons exist alongside humans, though they exist secretly. In this book, we follow Diana Bishop, a witch from a long line of distinguished witches. However, Diana wants nothing to do with magic due to a trauma that happened in her early years. Instead, Diana is a scholar. However, while she is at Oxford University, she unknowingly calls up an ancient alchemical manuscript that has been bewitched for years and also been missing. She gets it, she uncovers it, and then she sends it back to be lost again. When the other paranormal creatures realize that Diana has called up this ancient manuscript and sent it back, they come out of the woodwork and descend onto Oxford University. One of those being Matthew Claremont, a vampire geneticist and also professor at Oxford University. Matthew has been searching for the manuscript for years, and so he and Diana decide to team up and try to recall this manuscript so they can unearth these secrets. However, when they team up, they begin to get closer and more intimate, and this is a big no in this world. world because there's a covenant stating that there is no interspecies relations. This book is definitely a romance. I have seen it described as adult Twilight, and I probably would agree. It has that angsty kind of insta-love, but also not insta-love in it, but with more adult themes. But also, this book has great history and literary references, and also a lot of science in it. It's really fascinating. I think the history and literary references are kind of what keeps you coming back. The romance is really great and it's tension-filled, but it's the mystery of this ancient alchemical manuscript that you're reading for. While there's no magic school, there is a lot of magic learning, so if you're into somebody kind of coming into their own magic, this would also be a book for you because Diana, since she has never been interested in magic, she doesn't know how to control her magic, and she's also realizing that she may be more powerful than people want. I gave this book 5 stars, and I cannot wait to continue on with the All Souls trilogy and then watch the TV show because it looks so good. And finally, my last favorite book of 2019, which I think actually also ended up being one of the last books that I read in 2019, and that is Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. This book came out in October 2019, and it is an adult fantasy mystery centered around the secret societies at Yale. Our main character, Alex Stern, has been able to see ghosts her entire life, and because of this, she ended up being ostracized by other people, and she was eventually led down this life path filled with drug abuse, loser boyfriends, and kind of danger at every turn. A tragedy occurs, and because of her unique ability to be able to see ghosts, which are called greys in this world, she's given the opportunity to start a new life over at Yale University as the newest member of Leith, the 9th secret society house at Yale that monitors the magical ongoings and rituals of the other 8 houses. And then someone's murdered, and Alex believes that it's connected somehow to these secret society activities, and that's when our story takes off. This was such an interesting story for me from start to finish. I loved the murder mystery aspect of it as much as I loved the academia setting and the secret society system that we got to learn about. Additionally, you cannot help but fall in love with Leigh Bardugo's characters. You really root for Alex as she's trying her best to navigate this new and unfamiliar territory of Ivy League schools and privileged a-holes, while also reconciling herself with her past and her old demons and trying to solve this murder without getting killed herself. We also meet characters that help Alex out along this journey. Darlington is another one of I would consider him a main character. He is her mentor at Leith, and he has been in her shoes. They're not particularly in her life experience before. And Darlington is so incredibly intelligent, and he cares so much about the societies and the history and integrity of Leith that you can't help but love him. He is literally the golden boy, but with a lot of snark and sass, and he is just, you love him and Alex together. We also have Dawes, who is the research assistant to Leith, and though she's kind of standoffish and shy at the beginning, she really comes into her own towards the end of the book. I also really enjoyed our detective, the plug to the New Haven police force, Detective Turner. He was definitely the guy that was kind of the reality check for these secret societies. Overall, I gave this book 5 stars. I really love almost everything that Leigh Bardugo writes. She's one of my favorite authors, and I'm so excited to continue on with this series. I cannot wait for the next book to come out because this book does end on a little bit of a cliffhanger. Not every issue is resolved, but some are, and it's just so good. So that is going to be it for my top 10 favorite books of 2019. Let me know in the comments down below what some of your favorite books of last year were, as I would love to know, and if I haven't read them yet, I would love to add them to my TBR list. So with all that being said, thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a wonderful morning, noon, or night, whatever time it is that you're watching this video, and until next time,